All right, and welcome to part 4 of the 6-part series looking into authenticity and the road home to our truest nature. You can find part 3 right here, and that will lead you to part 2 or part 1. You don't need to necessarily watch these in any particular order. They kind of stand on their own. Although, if you are interested in these aspects of authenticity, watch all the videos. There might be something there that is of value in your path. And to kind of cover it again, it seems like if we were to look at ourselves as a beam of pure white light coming this way and hitting a prism here and spraying color out this way, the aspects of authenticity are these colors, these at least 6 colors, yet they are the same thing as the white light. They are all part of the same thing. They are essentially the same thing. Yet this particular series will look at these particular aspects and give us a little bit more insight into how those things show up. The one thing that can be said is if there's any hesitation in any one of these aspects, then authenticity hasn't reached 100%. And the funny thing here is another paradox. Once we reach 100% authenticity, we begin to lose the illusion that there is a self at all, and liberation ensues. Today we are going to speak of the aspect of risk-taking, taking risks, and courage. The first thing I want to point to is you're here. And if you're here, you're on the path, and there's already courage being engaged with. So it's really good to be able to recognize that. And oftentimes when we think of courage, we think of it in a dualistic way. There is courage and cowardice, yet when it comes to our truest nature, there is no opposite. It's almost as if it's a force of nature. Our truest nature. It's just courage in general. From here, risk-taking doesn't necessarily need to look like anything extreme. I'm not really pointing to the fact that you need to go skydiving or bungee jumping or something like that, although it could show up that way. Here, when speaking of courage and taking risks, we're looking at that which seems extremely personal. These areas of hesitation in terms of, I won't do that. That is not who I am. I won't be that. To look at that a little closer, we can see that sometimes engaging with courage will show us something about ourselves that we didn't seem to previously know. This is the nature of identity. It obscures our truest nature. There's a quote out there that says, it's not that we are afraid of being inadequate. Instead, we are most afraid of being powerful beyond measure. Courage will give you some insight into that. So let's just start with how thought seems to co-opt the experience. Thought tends to distract us from something being felt, something in the sensational space. And to engage in a place of courage to approach that directly will allow us to see that we are more resilient than we could have ever imagined. Allowing ourselves to engage in that type of courage begins to reveal quite a bit of our truest nature. We are stronger than we allow ourselves to think we are. The whole name of the game here is to just be able to be with the effect. So, with that being said, to engage and to connect with courage, we must allow ourselves to come out of the box. We must be willing to take the risks to test these limits. The thoughts are the limitations. I can't handle this anxiety any longer. Thinking the thoughts that the anxiety itself, the sensations, the experience is going to kill us, that is a distraction from our truest nature of courage. To step into and constantly take the risks to test whatever limits we think we have, that in and of itself is courageous. Just feeling, just allowing ourselves to be in an entirely sensational space, to be present, to be in the mystery and the spontaneity of this moment, that is courage. See if you're willing to give that a look. See if you can notice the thoughts that want to distract you, that want to tell you to do something away from what you're experiencing here and now. Courage is the ability and the fortitude to turn our attention to what is present. And we all have it. And no one seems to have any more or less courage than others, although some people have it maybe more honed or refined. They have a better relationship with courage. There really are no limitations in the way that the thoughts and the identity is telling us. And a way to look at this identity is, imagine we have an identity box. I am this person, and I won't do these things. I am not this person. Test that. See what limitations you can find and see if they are actually limitations or if they're imposed through thought. That is courage. It's the willingness to experiment. It's the willingness to see how much we can actually handle. And it can show up in a variety of ways. It can show up a lot externally as well. And as mentioned before, out here in the external world, it can be a wonderful pointer of what's going on inside. Courage to be honest with ourselves. Courage to be open and curious. Courage to trust our intuition. It is the glue. It is who we are. It is our truest nature. We are very powerful. More powerful than you can imagine in the conceptual realm of mind, identification, and thought. So as mentioned in another video, take some improv classes. Test the limits. Test the limits of identity and really pay attention to what shows up. Because as we take these risks, these personal risks, and as we engage with courage, we begin to hear the whispers that have been there the entire time, yet we couldn't hear. It's akin to having a fan on, and you have it on for 24 hours a day. Eventually you acclimate to the sound of the fan, and if you unplug that fan, suddenly the vacuum or the silence becomes deafening. That is coming in contact with the whispers. All these whispers are limitations, self-imposed, but not self-imposed in terms of the full you, the authentic you, self-imposed by the mechanisms of identity. You're not your thoughts. You're not your identity. You are not yourself. Yet there is something there that is just intimately connected to consciousness in this universe as is. And courage is a wonderful way to discover that. Without courage, we live a life of hesitation. A major aspect of taking risks is allowing ourselves to live fully. You could say that is what it is to live big, to live all the way. If we aren't rejecting any aspect of reality and we are taking risks constantly to uncover more, we begin to see that even courage itself is an effortless experience. It's a state of play. Watching young children engaging with the world without hesitation, you can see the courage, and there's something absolutely endearing about that. That's here, right now, with all of us. Live all the way. This universe is beautiful. It's bold. It is engaging. It is full. And taking risks and courage allows you to be entirely a part of that. Looking out here in the content area as well, there are things that we can do to break up patterns and to engage with courage. If there's something that you've always wanted to do, that voice saying, always wanted to be a singer, but I can't allow myself to do that, just know that that's a thought. That's an identity-imposed limitation. And from here, at this very point, you can engage with your courage, and you can begin to take external steps and internal steps to allow that to guide. It's okay. It's not about the result. It's about being in the midst of something that shows us who we truly are. And along with openness and honesty and trust, all these aspects in between, courage is a very, very powerful guide. It is our glue. It is what makes us live all the way. It allows us to live big. And to bring this into something more experiential, stop what you're doing right now. Take a nice deep breath, in through the nose, slowly out through the mouth. Close your eyes. And before you answer this question, the very first thing that arises, that is intuition. That is what we pay attention to. Ask yourself, what is the most personal risk I can take right now? What would demonstrate the most courage right here, right now? It doesn't really matter the answer. It could be something that seems large. It could be something that seems trivial. Follow that. Follow that now. Make steps if it's something external to allow that courage to guide you somewhere. I think you'll see that even if it is external, it points to something inside. Yet, if that personal risk is showing up about something internal, something about identity itself, excellent. Pay some attention to that. This is how we can engage with courage all the time. What is courageous is spontaneous, it's intimate, it is also part of our intuition. It encompasses all these things. Just play with that a little bit. You might find something there. Who knows? It actually could be fun. And it will certainly teach you something about your truest nature. Here, I'm encouraging you to see what you can do to break that up. Notice patterns and find ways outside of those patterns to engage with your truest nature. I think you'll find a lot there. You are courageous. It's built in. It's unavoidably true. Yet if you don't engage with it and you don't allow it, and you hesitate when it comes to courage, your identity box will get smaller and smaller and smaller, and it becomes a very restrictive life. It becomes almost a hole that seems like we cannot dig ourselves out of. So, sit with this a little bit. Feel into your courage. You might notice that every breath you take is courage. You might notice that you can actually feel courage. And play with the other aspects of what it is to be authentic, and by doing so, you are engaging in courage. By being here, you are engaging directly with courage. You're doing a great job. And let courage be your guide to take risks and discover more.